Just when you thought the frenzied panic over North Korea in the Washington policy bubble was easing, here come reports that at least one U.S. intelligence agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, assesses that Pyongyang will have a reliable intercontinental ballistic missile ICBM that can reach the U.S. mainland by next year. Most analysts had a longer timetable, roughly 3-4 years. But before you build your fallout shelter, remember there are 16 other U.S. intelligence agencies, and there is often a spectrum of assessments on this type of intelligence question. That is why the National Intelligence Council does national intelligence estimates to find a consensus among the various agencies. What's more, they don't call them estimates for nothing. Remember Iraq. What do they mean by reliable? What level of confidence does the DIA have in its judgment? There is cause for skepticism with respect to the DIA assessment. For starters, that North Korea had a bigger engine in its newest Hwasong-14 two-stage missile, and that it went farther is not evidence that its whole program has advanced as well. They don't know if the re-entry vehicle was successful or if it burned up. What about accuracy? It took the US, Russia's and China much longer to obtain reliable ICBM forces from the same point North Korea's missile program is at now. To add a third stage to a true ICBM and have it travel the additional 4,000 kilometers to hit Washington or New York creates additional heating, physical stress and other complications for a re-entry vehicle to not burn up and accurately hit a target. Perhaps such technical challenges explain why Gen. Paul Silva, the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, recently testified before the Senate Armed Services Committee that Pyongyang's recent test lacked the capacity to strike the United States with any degree of accuracy or reasonable confidence of success. So where do we go from here? First, while they are likely to eventually attain ICBM capability, there is a window during which we can disrupt and inhibit their missile and nuclear programs. There is a difficult supply chain of components needed for Kim Jong-un's missiles and nukes. As we tighten sanctions, cutting their access to the international financial system, we can curb Pyongyang's overseas procurement networks of operatives in places like China and Malaysia. This should be the focus of the US and its partners. Though you might not know it from the irresponsible rhetoric recently uttered by Trump officials, US options are limited. Gen. Joseph Dunford, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said last week at an Aspen Institute meeting that it is not unimaginable to have military options to respond to North Korean nuclear capability. He suggested a timeline, saying that the administration is giving diplomacy a few more months. No less reckless were remarks by CIA Director Mike Pompeo, also at the Aspen Forum. As reported in the press, he said that the administration is developing a range of options and that he was hopeful that the U.S. could find a way to separate that regime from their nuclear weapons. This implies regime change, directly contradicting Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's pledge to the contrary. In any case, loose talk of preemptive strikes and regime change are not exactly incentives for Kim Jong-un to surrender his nukes. Precisely the opposite. It feeds his portrayal of the U.S. as a grave, imminent threat and reinforces his belief that an ICBM is his best insurance policy against U.S. attack. While all options